Coming off the best week of WWE television all year with two big debuts, we got two major angles split between Raw and SmackDown. I cannot remember the last time that I went back and I rewatched two different segments as many times as I did. But this week, that's what I did. After the Wyatt 6 massacre of the week prior, this week, it was a therapy session that ended up being the highlight of the show. You know, in one of those QR code videos that we got for weeks and weeks and weeks, there was a female therapist sitting with someone. We couldn't see who it was. She ended up going missing. There was a newspaper clipping about it. Now Uncle Howdy is the therapist. I wonder what happened to the woman. But this was week 2 of the Wyatt 6. Of course, we all saw what happened the week before. Poor Chad Gable, laying there or sitting there on the ground, looked like he got a bullet to the brain. Thankfully, he's okay. And he was back this week. Not only was he back, but he won his Money in the Bank qualifying match. But when the match was over, the lights went out. There was fog all around the ring and in the ring. And zombie Nikki Cross crawling into the ring. So Gable headed for the hills. She crawled out of the ring, out to on the other side, reached down on the ground and picked up a box, a package of some kind. And she slow walked it over to Michael Cole at the announce desk and handed him this box. And Cole eventually opened the box and pulled out a VHS tape with a label on it that said, "Play Me." So they had to send it to the truck to see if they had a VCR to play this fucking thing, and they did. And then they played the video for us. And what the video showed was Uncle Howdy sitting down speaking. They distorted his voice like he was fucking Nails, the Big Boss Man feud back in the day. So they distorted his voice, and he was talking to somebody that we couldn't see initially. It's a very dimly lit room. And he's asking this person if he remembers who they are. That person turned out to be Bo Dallas. And they proceeded to cut back and forth between Bo and Howdy for the rest of the segment. And he asked Bo, "How did it feel when your brother died?" Now, I wasn't expecting that. I was like, whoa, okay. Right to Final Jeopardy here. And Bo said he felt like the most important thing in his life was taken away from him. He felt like nothing would ever matter again. And then Howdy asked him if he was exploiting his brother's legacy. And Dallas said that all he ever wanted to be was like his brother. He looked up to him. He wanted to be him. He worked his entire career so that he could have the opportunity to work right there next to him. And they were going to rule the world. They were going to rule together. There they were. They had it. And then it was taken away from him. And he said, there's nobody on this earth that feels more hurt than him by his loss. Nobody feels what he feels. And he asked the question, what am I supposed to do? Like, let him become a mausoleum? Let everybody forget what he fought for and what he believed in? And Bo said they wanted to forget about him, but we made them all remember. And then they zoomed out, and we got a shot of Bo Dallas sitting in one chair, Uncle Howdy sitting in another chair right across from him, and that's how the tape ended. And I didn't pick up on this right away, but as people pointed out to me, the door in the background behind them looked like the door to the Firefly Funhouse. They may have been sitting in the Funhouse. It was hard to tell because it was just so dark. But that would be another cool way to tie the Funhouse stuff into it, seeing as how we already saw people dressed up last week as the puppets. But I got to give a lot of praise here to Bo Dallas for his performance in this segment. I thought he was spot on. I don't know how much was even acting necessarily. I mean, you're talking about something very real that I'm sure is still very raw to him, and it was very emotional for him. But I just thought his performance in this segment really is what put it over the top. I thought he was just pitch perfect. So he deserves a lot of credit for this segment. But there's another name that nobody mentions who I think also deserves a lot of credit here. And I don't know what role, if any, he might also have in the Bloodline story that's playing out right now. But for sure, he has been instrumental in this story. And that man is Rob Fee. Rob Fee is their director of long-term creative. And he first joined the company 2 years ago when Bray Wyatt was brought back. That whole White Rabbit campaign, that was his brainchild. Him and Bray, they worked together on that. Everything was building to Bray's return. He basically came in with him, and he's been a part of the company ever since. At some point after that, they elevated him to the position he's in now as the director of long-term creative, which I think is great, by the way. Having someone in creative who is dedicated to the role of long-term creative is something that they should have had years ago. I think that's something that every wrestling company that has weekly television should have. They should have somebody in a position dedicated to focusing on long-term creative. You can't just leave everything to the promoter, or in the case of WWE, Triple H, right? Everything can't just fall on the shoulders of one person. And long-term storytelling is very important. WWE has proven that. The Bloodline story has proven that. Long-term storytelling is very important when you do weekly television. If you're an independent promotion, you want to tell stories there too, but it's not as important. You don't have that episodic week-to-week, television like WWE has in AEW and TNA. It would be more important in companies like that. So anyway, he's been with them for a couple of years. Prior to that, he comes from a horror background. He was a horror writer for Marvel. So he's into all that kind of stuff. But I said it last week. One thing I was looking for in this Wyatt 6 story, I need it to be more grounded in reality. I'm not looking for too much of the spooky stuff and the supernatural stuff. This is not Undertaker and Kane and their magical powers. I want to see if they take it in a more realistic, kind of gritty direction. This here in this segment, this was Taylor Rotunda bearing his soul and grieving, while at the same time furthering the story that they're trying to tell. In one segment, they gave us a reason to care about Uncle Howdy, because he and Bo are one and the same. Like, the way I look at it is, as The Fiend was to Bray Wyatt, as something of an alter ego, Uncle Howdy is to Bo Dallas. And I liked how they addressed some of the criticism that he has gotten on social media for exploiting his brother's death with this storyline, which I don't understand. I mean, it's pretty clear to me that this is something his brother wanted to do, and without his involvement, this would not be happening right now. And if Bo wants to do it, it's not to exploit his brother, it's to honor him. But evidently, some people saw it as exploitation, and they didn't shy away from it. They included it in the segment with a great explanation as to why. They shut that shit down pretty fast. So if you can look past all of the wacky masks and the Halloween costumes, which I know some people don't like, not everybody was a fan of the Funhouse stuff. Beneath it all, you've got Bo Dallas acknowledging to us, the viewer, as part of this storyline, and this is how I saw it, you have him acknowledging that he came back originally as this Uncle Howdy character so that he could work with his brother. But now that his brother is gone, Uncle Howdy has sort of taken over as this separate alter ego of his. We got the split screen at the end of the two of them, right? Sitting across from each other. You've got to turn your brain off for that part. Similar to the Three Faces of Foley stuff when we saw Mankind, Dude Love, and Cactus Jack all on screen together at the same time. It's similar to that. But this is a man who has been badly wounded. A lot of people can relate to that. If you've ever lost a brother, if you've ever lost somebody close to you in your life, a friend, that shit stays with you. And it can drag you down. And sometimes you just want to do something to honor their memory. So in one promo, he addressed some of the things that needed to be addressed. Why? Why the Wyatt Six is here? What is their purpose? Their purpose is to make sure that people never forget what his brother stood for and what he believed in. Now we need more of these therapy sessions. With the other members of the Wyatt Six, flesh out those characters a little bit more too, because it's still not clear why Nikki Cross or Dexter Lumis or Joe Gacy are a part of this. I'm assuming it's because they, like Bo, are all people that have been forgotten about, especially Nikki and Dexter. I mean, they just disappeared off the face of the earth all of a sudden. Like Bo, they were forgotten. Eric Rowan, I can understand being a part of this, given his history with Bray. I don't think you need a whole lot of explanation there either. Although, you can, I guess, make the same argument that he was sort of forgotten about. So we need more tapes, and I expect that we're going to get more of these. They better carry that VCR around with them in the production truck for a few more weeks, because this is the sort of thing that I want to see more of with the other members of this group. The only thing they did not explain from Monday is why the package was addressed to Pat McAfee. Now, I'm assuming McAfee said something about the Wyatts on his show last week, and they thought it was a lie, hence all of the "you lied" messages that flashed on screen during some of his shows. Uncle Howdy hates liars, right? That was clear from some of the QR codes. They were in Indianapolis on Monday, so McAfee, it was noticeable that he wasn't there, but that's because as soon as his talk show ended that day, he got word that his father-in-law was rushed to the hospital, and he later passed away. So that's why Pat wasn't on the show on Monday. Otherwise, it would have been him and not Michael Cole, who Nikki Cross would have handed that package to. So the first week of follow-up, very encouraging. If the story progresses like this, I think there's some great potential here with these characters, but again, we still have to see them in the ring. How do they wrestle? What do those matches look like? We don't know yet. I only hope they don't wrestle in the dark with a red light or a blue light. Please. Please. No more of that.